Back to Miller. Oh my goodness.
Herbert.
Sidearm sling, and it's a touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, good spin move by Filipowski for the news. Give him 9.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beef Up Front podcast here on Pick Swap Media. Your host, Ryan Coyle, joined alongside Joe Kmetz for a preview of probably the best regular season weekend of the college basketball season, maybe one of the best of like the 21st century. We have 3 top 10 matchups on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. I can't remember off the top of my head matchups this good, and we still have a bunch of good matchups around those too, Joe. But as always, welcome back, and how are we? Got a big weekend ahead.
I mean, Coyle, you said it best. This is one of, and definitely in recent memory, one of the best regular season weekends we've had. But I agree, a great weekend ahead. And the one thing I like about this week, last week we kind of had a lot of big games early. This week it's a lot of big games are later in the day. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Ton of games this weekend's going to tell us a lot. We've already had a pretty crazy week with South Carolina beating Tennessee, Georgia Tech, beating Duke. We were just talking about them beating Duke earlier. UNC at home. We're probably, wouldn't shock me if we get another upset before Saturday. We're definitely going to have some interesting results over the weekend. That's why college basketball is the best.
Yeah, this weekend's awesome. I mean, we're recording this on Wednesday night, and as we're recording, Purdue is tied with Northwestern in overtime 1 minute in. So we're going to be talking about Purdue as our last game on Sunday, but by the time we get to them, this game will probably be over. So a lot more emphasis could be on that game. It's Sunday against Wisconsin. Wisconsin could, I believe, go into first place in the Big Ten by themselves with a win there. So we'll get into that game at the end. We start on Saturday, though, with your UConn Huskies, Joe, number 1 in the nation, traveling to St. John's for a noon tip on Fox. St. John's down 3 to Xavier as we're recording this one. UConn projected on Haslametrics to win 74-70. So we'll go UConn minus 3.5. Over under 143.5. It's supposed to be a sellout at the Garden, most likely one of the highest attended games for St. John's basketball team in our lifetime, I would say, at least, Joe. But a huge one on Saturday. You think UConn can get it done?
I do. UConn is just simply the better team. I saw UConn play. I was at the UConn St. John's game without Klingon, and UConn came away with a victory there. I think with Klingon, they're going to be able to control the game. They have Providence right now. St. John's, obviously, as you said, on the road. And this, it always happens at the Garden. I think there's going to be a lot more St. John's fans than normal for this game. Do not get me wrong. I don't think it's going to be, completely dominated by UConn. But even if it's still 70-30 to UConn, sell out at the Garden, that's not the home court advantage that Pitino wants. That's why he's going to play UConn at the Leah Cordes Center next year. I think Misericordia's gym has a higher attendance than the Leah Cordes Center, but I'm going to go UConn.
Oh, Leah Cordes is where my Owls play.
No, then Leah Cordes. Oh, the Carnesecca. Why am I don't know why I was saying Leah Cordes, but that'd be funny if St. John's just went down to Temple to play UConn instead. Carnesecca is not a big gym. I don't think. I think UConn's going to get it done here. Just move on.
I'm gonna go with the Johnnies with the upset. As I said, probably the highest attended St. John's game for a St. John's team in recent memory. I think that the crowd's gonna be buzzing in this one. I think there's going to be major point of emphasis on this game, not only because it's the number 1 team, but it looks like St. John's is losing to Xavier right now, who's probably not going to the tournament. St. John's wants to get back on kind of the right side of the bubble. There's no better way to do it than this game. And I think there was some kind of crude remarks exchanged between Hurley and Pitino and St. John's and UConn the last one. I think this is going to be a fun one, a chippy one. I'm going to go with St. John's to pull the outright upset at home. I'm going to go St. John's 75, UConn 71. So St. John's plus 3.5 in the over of 143.5. All right, second game. And like you said, Joe, but the past few weeks, I feel like all the good games have been early. We have a noon tip, and then our next one for our top 10 games of the week is until 3:30. So pretty awesome kind of balance there. Number 17, Utah State at San Diego State, 3:30 tip on Fox. San Diego State projected 2.5 point favorite here by us, over under 144.5. with the San Diego State winning 74-71 is the projection at Haslam. So, Joe, can Utah State keep that number next to their name and go to San Diego State and get a win?
I think they'll be able to keep the number next to their name, but I do not think they'll get the win at San Diego State. This is probably the biggest game of the season at home for San Diego State. There could have been a bigger Mountain West game earlier, but I'm looking now pretty quick. Maybe when Nevada came to town, but this is a huge game for San Diego State at home. And I just love what going to the national title did for the Mountain West with San Diego State. They're getting all these big time games on CBS. This game is on Fox. I love that for the conference, but for my analysis for this game, it's simply San Diego State's at home. They need a big win if they want to get a relatively good seed. Instead of looking at a 5 through 7 seed, they win this game. They could be looking at a 4 or a 5. If they lose this game, they might be looking a little bit lower, try to give themselves a little bit of an easier road to make a deep run in the tournament. No shot against Utah, or no shots taken against Utah State, but just going on the road is tough in general. I mean, we saw it already with UNC yesterday. We San Diego State at home.
I'm going to go San Diego State at home too, 70-67. So San Diego State minus 2.5, under 144.5. As you were saying, Utah State has been very impressive. They went to Boise State last week and won, which is one of the best mid-major home courts in the entire country. But like you said, I'm not going to put this as a must-win game for San Diego State, but it is a big game. Like, if they drop another couple games, they could be like an 11-12 seed if you win these home games in the Mountain West against some of these other high-quality squads in the conference. They could play themselves into a 5, a 6, or a 7 seed. So big couple weeks coming seeding-wise. I don't see San Diego State or Utah State falling out of the tournament. Both teams have the good computer numbers. Both teams have some pretty big wins as well. And the Mountain West has been a pretty rigorous conference this year. So both teams battle-tested, but I'm going to go with the home squad there at San Diego State. All right, third game of the week, one of the top 10 matchups with number 4 Houston at number 8 Kansas, 4 o'clock on ESPN. Houston, 68. Kansas, 63 is the Haslam metric projection. So Houston minus 4.5 over under 130.5. Joe, if Houston is favored on this in this game at Fog Allen Fieldhouse, what should the punishment be?
I mean, I might actually sell my house and put it on Kansas to cover the 4.5. If you're going to give Kansas 4.5 points at home, I know on paper Houston is the better team. I'm not saying that. I know Kansas's bench is non-existent. I was watching a little bit of, the beginning of the game last night. ESPN showed the graphic. I think they were 344th in bench scoring out of 300, 50-something teams in basketball? It gets crazy. 362. It's Kansas. It's insane how, just shallow their depth is this year. But I'm going to go Kansas at home. We say it all the time. If you're not getting a whistle at Fog Allen, no matter what the refs will be like, oh, we're fair. No. The Big 12 refs protect Kansas at home, which is what all the big conferences do to their big teams at home. I'm not saying that, but you're not going to get a call late. Houston defensively is good enough to stop Kansas, stop Hunter Dickinson and everybody, but I think Kansas gets it done at home because I'm never going to pick against Bill Self and Kansas at home.
Joe, since Bill Self took over at Kansas in 2003, they are 326-20 at home. So they won 94.2% of their games with an average margin of victory over that span of 17.8 points per game. So just a ridiculous home court advantage. I'm not saying that Houston won't win this game, won't cover this game, but for them to go into this game actually as the favorite, I'd be very surprised. I know they're the number one team and a bunch of the Ken Pom, Haslam metrics, all the computer models and whatnot. But still, you have to take into the advantage of Fog Allen Fieldhouse. Still, as we've talked about throughout past few weeks, not the biggest fan of this Kansas team long-term ceiling-wise. And I definitely think Houston has a squad that can go in there and win, but it's just not a smart move to do it until you can start to get proven otherwise. I mean, every here and there we'll see Kansas get picked off, but it's dumb to pick against them at home. So give me Kansas to win this game. I'm going to go Kansas 70, Houston 68. So for our purposes, Kansas plus 4.5 and the over of 130.5. Big one in the SEC, another awesome kind of balanced out. You got the Kansas Houston game at 4, then at 6 you got number 16 Auburn at Ole Miss, 6 o'clock tip on the SEC network. Then you got the Duke UNC game that we'll be touching on in a little bit. If you're a two screen type of guy, those would be 2 great games to have on. But Auburn 78-71 is a projection here. Auburn minus 7.5, over under 148.5. Joe, can Ole Miss get the win at home here for cousin Tommy?
I don't think so. I'm going Auburn 82, Ole Miss 77. I'll take Ole Miss plus a 7.5. I'm going to go over 148.5. Ole Miss coming off a big rivalry game against Mississippi State last night, an emotional win, a tough win, went down literally to the buzzer. That's why I don't like Ole Miss in this game. Auburn playing tonight against Vanderbilt. They're 17.5-point favorites at home. They should win that game. Mm-hmm. Vanderbilt is really, really bad this year. What else is new with Vanderbilt sports besides baseball, though? So I'm going to go Auburn on the road here. Auburn coming off of 2 tough road losses against Mississippi State. Obviously, the rivalry game against Bama last week, but I think they'll be able to get it done on the road in a bounce-back spot.
Yeah, I mean, at home, I really like this Ole Miss team. I think I'm a little bit higher on them than the majority of people, and especially with the polls. Like, this is a team last night just beat a pretty good Mississippi State squad. The problem with Ole Miss is once you get them out of their building, they're a little bit of a different team. But Auburn, actually, Joe, doesn't have a win over a top 40 team in the net so far this season. So they've been a team that has really thrived on beating up on this lower competition, and that's really helped out their computer numbers and the metrics. Can they go on the road to a pretty hostile environment here in Ole Miss that has been turned into a kind of a respectable basketball program this year? That's a big test for them. I'm going to say no. I'm going to go Ole Miss wins this one at home, 75-72. So Ole Miss plus 7.5, under 148.5. Another game where I'd be very surprised if that's the actual number. I think Ole Miss actually might be like a 1 or a 2-point favorite in this game when it's all said and done, but I like Ole Miss to win this game outright no matter what. All right, go to the Big 12 now. Cincinnati playing West Virginia tonight. I believe they're pretty close to closing out that game. Going to number 15, Texas Tech, 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Texas Tech 73-70 is the projection. So Texas Tech minus 2.5, over under 142.5.
Yeah, big opportunity here for Cincinnati going on the road where Texas Tech, I've said it the past couple of weeks with them, I know they're really good. I know they're a top 25 team, but I feel like there's just something I can't put my finger on with them. I would say out of all of the teams, out of the 6 teams in the Big 12, 8, excuse me, oh my God, 8 teams in the Big 12 that are in the top 25, they would be towards the bottom in terms of teams that I would trust to get a couple wins come March Madness. This is a huge opportunity for Cincinnati. I try not to look at any bracketology big time until after the Super Bowl because it kind of gives me something to scratch that itch after football ends. But I did see a Lenardi tweet, I believe, last week, and he had Cincinnati like right on the line of the last 4 in, first 4 out. Cincinnati is a firm bubble team. But the beauty of the Big 12 is you have so many big games. If they go to Texas Tech, pull off the upset, that'd be huge for them. I think this is a big opportunity. All that being said, though, I'm going Texas Tech 76, Cincinnati 72. So I'll take Texas Tech to cover. I'm going to go over 142.5.
Yeah, Texas Tech is a team that, like, I'm struggling to get a real good grip on. Like, they had the big win against Oklahoma. Then they had the loss last night against TCU. They were up early, kind of gave it away. I forget off the top of my head. Oh, yeah, the game at BYU a couple of weeks ago, too. Or I forget if that was at home or at BYU, but they were down 16 at half. So I don't know what you're getting with this Texas Tech team every night. But I do know in this one you're getting them at home. So I'm going to take them to win this one 74-68. Cincy, I think, is that team where people are talking like, oh, potentially 10, 11 teams from the Big 12. I think Cincy, by the time the season's over, will be that kind of either them or Texas will be one of those last two teams in or last two teams kind of out of the tournament. They're going to be hovering right around there. And if they do make it, I think they will be going to Dayton. But I'm going to go with Texas Tech here. And Texas Tech, it keeps themselves alive, especially if Houston goes to Kansas and loses. Texas Tech keeps themselves alive for the Big 12 regular season title. And if you said that at the beginning of the year, people would look at you like you had 8 heads. So huge opportunity for Texas Tech at home. I'm going to take them to win and cover 74-68, Texas -2.5, and the under 142.5. All right, the big one, the one that everyone's looking forward to on Saturday night. Number 7, Duke at number 3, UNC, 6:30 on ESPN. UNC projected to win 79-73. So we got UNC -5.5, over under 151.5. I think by the time tip-off comes out, this one will probably be 2.5, 3 points.
Yeah, I'm going to go UNC to cover regardless. I'm going to take them 77-68, take them to cover that 5.5. I'm going to go under 151.5. I feel like it's really high. I feel like, Cole, you and I have talked about this every time we talk about this game. I feel like the under is more than not the play, except that one year I think the whole house rode the under, and it was like one of the highest scoring games in like the history of the rivalry or something like that. But I'm going to go UNC at home, bounce back spot. They're pissed dropping that game down in Atlanta, but I think Georgia Tech got very lucky. That was a clear foul at the end of the game. I'm actually surprised they didn't call it, but I'm going to go UNC at home, and then I'm going to probably pick Duke in the return game at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's always kind of the safe play. But I was just talking about it with someone else, and we were saying we've seen crazier things happen. Like we've seen the road team go and win in this game. And the Austin Rivers one at UNC comes to mind. And then obviously when UNC went to Duke in Coach K's last home game comes to mind as well. So it's not like it's an impossible task to go on the road here and win this game. But I think I saw the stat earlier this week that this, Joe, is the 49th time that these two teams have met up in the top 10. Like, insane rivalry, seems to always deliver. I'm going to take UNC to win and cover, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's within this 5.5. But I'm going to go UNC 70, Duke 63. UNC -5.5 and under 151.5. I think UNC's defense is legit. I think last night was a really big look-ahead spot for them with Duke coming up, obviously, and also UNC was going into last night riding a 10-game winning streak. It seemed like they were kind of due for a let-up, and now they're able to kind of get the train rolling again with this Duke game on Saturday night. So give me UNC in this one, -5.5 and the under of 151.5. All right, a couple more games on Saturday. Now 3 more games. We go back to the Big 12. Number 12, Iowa State at number 18, Baylor. 8 o'clock tip on ESPN2. Has them with the rare projection of a 71-71 game. So we'll just set this one as a pick 'em, over under 41.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go Baylor at home here, 83-76 over McClay's Cyclones. So I'll take Baylor in the pick 'em, and I'm going to go over 141.5. Baylor coming off that incredible win last week. No, I was looking at a different week. I lied. They lost in the triple overtime game to TCU. They're currently winning at UCF 67-61 with 1:45 left to play. And I feel like coming back home after that tough loss last week to TCU, I think they'll be able to bounce back. I just don't see Baylor dropping 2 straight home games. This is a very good Iowa State team, do not get me wrong, but Hinkle Magic isn't coming into play. So I'm going to go Baylor here. Hilton Magic. Dude, what's with me in my stadiums tonight? Hilton Magic. Oh, my God. I'm going to go Baylor to win, and I'm going to take the over.
See what happens when you can't play NCAA football and basketball all day?
It sucks. I'm losing all my knowledge.
I'm going to go with Baylor too, 75-70. So I'll go Baylor there with the pick and the over of 141.5. I'm going to keep it simple with this one too, Joe. We're not playing in Ames at Hilton Coliseum, and this Iowa State team is a different squad there. We did see Baylor lose last week in that TCU game, but I also talking about this with someone earlier this week. Baylor has 3 losses in the Big 12 where a bounce goes the other way, and they're 3 wins. Like the TCU game in triple overtime, that's a pretty wild one. The other 2 I can't remember off the top of my head at this moment, but this is a Baylor team I think you should still be buying stock in, and I'm still believing in as we go along this season. They're just going to need a few more bounces to go their way and play a little bit better defense down the stretch, but I will take them to win and cover in this game with the overhitting as well. All right, we have 2 more games on Saturday now. Our third top 10 matchup of the weekend. Number 5, Tennessee at number 10, Kentucky, 8:30 on ESPN. Tennessee projected to win 80-79 here at Kentucky. Another one where I'd be very surprised to see them favored. But we'll set it at Tennessee minus 1.5 for the show and over under 158.5.
I'm going to go with Tennessee with the upset here, 73-72. So I will take Kentucky to cover the 1.5. Coyle, kind of like you said, and kind of like you were talking about with Kansas. If you're giving me Kentucky as a home dog, I'm going to probably take the spread no matter what. And I'm going to go with the under here. I feel like it's a pretty high total. I know Tennessee is different than last year, but watching that game last night, Tennessee looked like they didn't want to be there. It looked like they were overlooking South Carolina, who was like the quietest 18-3 team. I don't want to be like dramatic, but like in the history of college basketball, like they are a very good team. I'm surprised.
16-5 against the spread too.
Yeah, like I know you. That's what I took them last night. Beef. People got to start. If the people aren't watching, what you're putting out on Twitter at this point, they don't like winning free money. But I'm going to go Tennessee bouncing back here on the road. I think Kentucky's going to get punched in the mouth. They're going to make a late run. It's not going to be enough. Give me the Vols.
Yeah, this one is like I know it's not quietly, but this is a game I think I'm actually looking forward to the most. Like Duke UNC, it always delivers, but this one has the little extra level of kind of intrigue to it because of Tennessee losing the other night to South Carolina at home too, which was pretty wild. And then Kentucky, as of right now, playing Florida, as you were touching on, but you get Kentucky in a major game at Rupp Arena with Tennessee. Maybe this is the SEC de facto kind of SEC title game on the line, or at least kind of give the one team the upper leg. Can this veteran Tennessee squad go to Kentucky and avenge their home loss the other night and knock off a really young and talented Kentucky team? Like a lot of questions. And we've talked about it time and time again, Joe, that we both aren't Tennessee believers. And I've said it throughout this year that I'm kind of buying in a little bit on this team because they've shown the ability to go out and score the basketball this year in ways like they haven't before. Then they go the other night and lay the dud at South Carolina, but they've shown the ability with Dalton Connect to really score the ball. So very intrigued to see if they're able to outduel Kentucky in the high-scoring track meet that Kentucky likes to play. But another thing like with Kansas where I'm not going to bet against Kentucky at home. I'll go Kentucky 80, Tennessee 75. So for the show, we got Kentucky plus 1.5 and under of 158.5 there for me. All right, last game on Saturday, Mississippi State at number 24, Alabama, 8:30 tip on SEC Network. Bama projected to win this one 82-73. So we'll go Bama minus 8.5, over under 154.5. And Alabama earlier was down like 17-2 to Georgia. They come back and wound up winning the game by 9. Like the team that can go on the craziest runs of any team in college basketball. Do you think they protect the home floor on Saturday night, Joe?
I do, and I'm going to take them to cover as well. I'm going to have Bama 82, keep it similar with Haslam there, because I'm going to go Mississippi State 71. So I'm going to take Bama to cover. I'm going to take the under. I'm confident Bama can get to the over. I just don't know about Mississippi State keeping up the whole time. Mississippi State's a very a quietly dangerous team, but I think going on the road to Alabama is a different animal. Especially, too, kind of like what I was saying with Ole Miss earlier, Mississippi State coming off a gut-wrenching rivalry loss, and to have to go to a top 25 Alabama team is not where you want to be as a Bulldog. So I'm going to go Alabama here.
Yeah, it is a tough spot, like going on the road to your biggest rival there in Mississippi, and then, like you said, going now to Alabama, who is a very good team at home. Very tough spot for a Mississippi State team hovering around the bubble. I'm going to go Alabama 80-75, so I will go Mississippi State to cover. The one thing about them is they're a very tough bunch, and I don't think they'll be phased by going to Alabama, but I just don't think they have the horses to keep up with this Bama team. Like, Bama could have 10 minutes or 10 points in the first 10 minutes. They could still score 100 points by the game's end. Like, the amount of threes they shoot, the pace that they play at is pretty insane to watch, and I just don't think Mississippi State can keep up. I'll go Bama 80, Mississippi State 75. Mississippi State plus 8.5 and over 154.5. And we go to Sunday now for our last game of the weekend and the last game of the top 10 matchups of the 4 that we have. Purdue just closed it out against Northwestern, 105-96 in overtime. Pretty high scoring game there. Beef up front gave the over for that one. I think you can figure out that one hit. But number 2, Purdue at number 6, Wisconsin. 1 o'clock tip on CBS. Projected winner here is Purdue of 76-72. So Purdue minus 3.5, over under 147.5. Does Purdue travel to Madison and get the big time win on Sunday, Joe?
They do not. Purdue will lose in Madison this weekend. I'm going Wisconsin 63, Purdue 61. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game. I'm going to take Wisconsin to cover the 3.5. I'm going to go under 147.5. This is just a Purdue team that came off a very, very – they ended up winning, but it was an exhausting game, went to overtime, quick turnaround, going on the road to Madison, to the best Wisconsin team I feel like we've seen since they made that national title run back in 2015. I know they were pretty good. I think they were tied for first when COVID happened with the Big Ten. Then a couple of years ago, they ended up tying the Big Ten regular season when Big Cat and all those guys went to the game, and he was, giving the speech on stage there. I think this is going to be a very fun environment in Madison on Sunday. For some reason, my dad is in love with Wisconsin. He said he's going to pick them to win the national title. So for that, I'm going to take Wisconsin to win here. I feel like Purdue, and they've kind of been flirting with it, I feel like they're due for a loss. And going on the road in Madison, I feel like is where they're going to get it.
Well, Joe, you should help your dad out and put a little $10 wager down on Wisconsin to win it all. They're at 35-1 right now. It's pretty good value for a team that's number 6 in the country at the moment. But I don't think that they're going to win on Sunday. I know this. I made this pick before the game tonight against Northwestern. They could go into that one with a little bit more tired legs, but at least the game's on Sunday and not a Saturday game. But I just think at the end of the day, if you don't have someone that can contain Zach Edey, it's kind of a dumb choice to pick against Purdue. Just like we said, like dumb choice to pick against Bill Self at Kansas, dumb choice to pick against Kentucky at Rupp. It's a dumb choice to pick against Zach Edey unless they have another 7-footer that is able to really contain him. And I just don't think Purdue has that guy, or excuse me, Wisconsin has that guy to slow down Zach Edey. I'm going to take Purdue to go to Madison, get the win outright on the road, 75-73. So Wisconsin does cover that 3.5. I think Wisconsin by tip will probably be like a 1-point favorite, but I will go with the over of 147.5 too. But that'll do it, Joe. Loaded slate this weekend. Didn't even look at the games on Friday. That's how good the games were for Saturday and Sunday. And there was a few on Saturday as well that I had to leave out just because of, volume of games. But there you got St. Bonaventure, Dayton, Butler, Creighton, Butler competing for an at-large spot. And Sunday's got a couple more good games too. Nebraska, Illinois, and then Stanford, Arizona. Stanford's already knocked off Arizona this year. So a lot of good hoops this weekend. Any last night comments before we head out? And by the time this episode's out, we're in February.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that we're already February. I think this Sunday when we're watching the Purdue game, it'll be like 6 weeks until March, till the selection show for March Madness, which is crazy. Rothstein had that tweet scheduled out. He put it out right in the middle of the AFC. Like, it was like the fourth quarter. Like, the Ravens were driving to try to make it a 3-point game, and Rothstein just tweets out, 7 weeks from now we will have a bracket. It's like, it was just very funny, like his timing with everything. But you said it best, Coyle. I mean, this is a great weekend, maybe the best weekend. If you're watching this and you have friends that don't watch college basketball until March, tell them to figure it out, because honestly, it is so much fun, and I cannot wait for this weekend.
All right, well, that'll do it. Everyone enjoy the games. Good luck on your picks, and we'll talk next week.